I love you, Vikings. Way to lose. Good job.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today is our cavalcade of stars, Chris Scherer, our Raiders aficionado. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
All right, Will Cotton, Captain for Life. How are you?
Doing great.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Mike King, the Giants man himself, giving you the prime spot. Mike, how are you doing, man?
I am, as a Daniel Jones supporter, I am doing well.
That's the T-shirt right there, Will. That's the next T-shirt. All right. So, fans, on this Top Shelf Tuesday edition, we are going to review Wild Card Weekend. We're going to talk about NFL personnel rule moves, and we're going to do a divisional round preview. We will go in order of the games. So, Mike, we're going to slow you down for a second. We're going to talk about Seattle versus San Francisco. Chris, I'm going to start with you because we had some banter online. It was a false call on Hope. The 49ers are good, and that kid did make a lot of mistakes. Chris, what did you think about the 49ers Seahawks game? Sorry about that.
Okay, so remember, at the beginning of the year, I said, "Hey, Seattle's like that when you're trying to do your own draft for fantasy football, and the internet goes out, and all of a sudden the system just picks for you." That was the Seattle team.
Yeah.
Right. And then somewhere around week 6 or 7, I said, "Hey, that's my team. That they're going to be the sleeper. They're going to go in." And then they went in and, they hit the buzzsaw. So San Francisco was just so talented that Seattle couldn't overcome them, no matter how much hope you were trying to give them on Twitter.
I'm watching and I'm like, it's tied. And then he grabbed that dude's leg and it was over. Will, what did you think about the San Francisco game? And feel free to make fun of your teammate.
Man, I mean, the quarterback, he has a lot of different flavors around him, but the best one you got to be sometimes is vanilla. And that's what he's doing, man. He's just doing his job. He's not overcompensating. He's not losing the football, fumbling interceptions, man. That's how you win football. And the team is like really good. I mean, people forget their defense is full of all pros. Their offensive line, all pro. I mean, CMC, Ayuk himself is a great receiver. And then you have Debo and then Kittle. I mean, all the kid doesn't have to do is just not turn the ball and fumble the ball. And this team is the team to beat in the NFC also.
And Mr. King, any thoughts on the Seattle-San Francisco game?
So San Francisco, it's a weird team because they look like the best team in the NFC, but they're also in these close games against these teams that they should just destroy. So, like, they're down at half.
Yeah.
They just played was it the Raiders that it took them
to
overtime? That's recent. And this defense is great. There's stars everywhere. But they have been giving up points. So it's how you're playing at the end. And then once you get to the playoffs, it's all matchups. They got Seattle. From here on out, matchups going to be maybe a little bit tougher. And then we're going to start to see. I think they're probably the class of the NFC, but that's kind of where I'm at with them.
All right.
They're just they're like a boa constrictor, man. They're just, they start squeezing you a little bit, give you some hope, give you some belief, and then man, they just start, and then they're running the football. So I think running the football allows other teams to actually stay in the game because you're not going to score a touchdown every time you're heading the ball. I think that's part of it, man. Like, we're going to give guys a little bit, and then at the end of it, that's it. But I agree. Like, we'll see how it goes moving forward. Playing a real team, playing in the playoffs.
Did you say a real team? Okay. Hey.
One thing for San Francisco, and I think it's going to be a theme of a lot of things we're going to say as we watch for all these games. You need an offensive mind. You need every team that's doing well right now. They have an offensive mind somewhere in the organization. In this NFL, you have to have someone creative, and they are probably the most creative team.
All right. Well, speaking of not being creative, we're going to go to the Chargers in Jacksonville. And my quick thoughts: tell the coaching staff to rent, not own, because I don't know by the time this thing comes out if everybody's going to be there. 5 turnovers and you still lost. Will, talk to me. They had they created 5 turnovers and they still lost. Tell me, what is your thoughts on the Chargers in Jacksonville?
Man, they took their the foot off the pedal, and you have to understand, if you're in the playoff, you can get away with that on the regular season. You beat a guy, 5 turnovers. Guys will be like, hey, man, what y'all eating dinner? What y'all going for the restaurant to? But playoffs, man, guys will play every second. And if you let off that pedal just a little bit, they will do that. And the same, I mean, it's been doing with the Chargers for decades now. I mean, they'll get a lead and lose it. It's just what they do, man. It's just what they do. But shout out to the head coach of the Jaguars. You know what I'm saying? Eagle said that he wasn't good anymore. This guy came in and turned it like the next year. Looks bad for Urban Meyer. Shout out to Trevor Lawrence, man. I mean, the guy gets up and down. People, what they're hating on him. I like the team. I don't think they're going to win anymore, but man, what energy they have moving forward to next year, and all the way they can get free agents. I mean, talk about like it don't matter who you are. So I really like the win. Chargers, who they are, losing in the first round. So.
All right, Chris, what did you think about the Jacksonville game?
I think the Chargers were learning from the Raiders. I think they watched them for years and they said, hey, wait, we got to blow the lead. Okay. No, seriously, Bear, he's getting this phobia about the playoffs, I think. And so it's not going to work well for the Chargers moving forward, because it was the same thing with Carr. You have to go in, you have to win a game early. If you don't win, then you have this in the back of your mind that we can't do it. It doesn't even matter if I'm ahead by 27 points. I'm going to lose this game. Okay. And I think next year, if they make the playoffs, they're going to have that in the back of their head. It's never going to be over. And some teams just have to keep on going. And I don't think that they will keep on going. I think the Chargers just kind of let go. Bear is a player that won't lose it for you, but he won't win it for you either.
All right, Mike, you tell me all the time in our public and private conversations the difference a coach can make. Mm-hmm. So before we get to the Giants game, give me your thoughts on Doug Peterson's job that he did this year with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, coaching. The Chargers coach, when they were up early, I was like, oh, he saved his job. But then he showed who he was. And then you look at Doug Peterson, you had Urban Meyer take this kid who was supposed to be generational. Right? That was the talk. It was generational. He was going to be like the guy, and he looked bad. And then a new coach comes in and he doesn't look bad. It's almost like coaching matters. The other thing with the Chargers, I mean, some organizations, they're just losers. They're just losers. The Vikings, they expect to lose. The Chargers, they expect to lose. We talk about the Jaguars as a joke, but in that short amount of time the Jaguars have existed, they've gone far. They took Blake Bortles recently to an AFC Championship game. It seems like he's been retired for like 2 decades, but it was like, what, 5 years ago?
Maybe less.
Maybe less. I think it was 4. They go. Like, when they get there, they do something with it. So that organization doesn't have a losing mentality. But another theme of the day is going to be some organizations have losing mentalities. It's hard to break that. I will say for Herbert, Peyton Manning had that until he won. So eventually you just got to do it. But right now he's got to keep getting the questions until he does it.
All right.
Well, remember, Peyton Manning won in the 2005, I think, Super Bowl that Devin Hester took it to the house. He wasn't even the MVP. Wasn't he? I mean, he played terrible.
Yeah. The one Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl he won, it was the defense that was actually carrying. Yep. When he was good, they didn't win. And then the second Super Bowl he won, he was terrible. It was all defense. Yeah. That's true.
All Von Miller, MVP.
All defense.
All right. So Miami, Buffalo. So really quickly, Miami didn't embarrass themselves, but I thought that there were some poor coaching decisions, and I'm not I just thought some of the things that they did, going back to play calling, they made some poor decisions. And Miami has some challenges that I don't know if they're going to address them. On the flip side, Buffalo looked vulnerable, and I don't know if it's the emotion. I don't know if it's the quarterback taking too many hits, but I'm saving Mike. So, Chris, what did you think about the Miami Buffalo game?
I still think Buffalo will take the Super Bowl. I wouldn't be worried about Buffalo right now. I mean, a lot of teams win ugly, and Buffalo's been winning ugly lately. But they're still winning, right? And that's what you got to keep in mind. And for Miami, they have way too many offensive weapons that rely on a top tier quarterback to be successful.
Skyler wasn't a top tier
No,
quarterback.
no, he isn't. No, I mean, and
It was Skyler.
yeah,
Okay.
and they lost.
All right. Mike, what do you think, man? Miami, Buffalo, thoughts?
So the receivers let him down. For Skyler, the receivers did let him down. Like the two of them had plenty of drops at the beginning of the game. That ball right in the hands. You could have one bad game, win, and be fine. I mean, we see that in all sports. Any sport, tennis, you could lose. You go to 5 sets in the first round against nobody and win a championship, and win the championship. So, but there's concerns. There's clearly a blueprint to beat the Bills, and it's the defense can be beat. And Josh
Dolphins defense caused havoc. And I said the Dolphins defense. Like the Dolphins?
They've got some pieces.
It wasn't 72 Dolphins. It was the 2023 Dolphins.
There's some pieces on that team, but also Josh Allen, there's been a couple times this year where he hasn't looked like Josh Allen. He also has a new offensive coordinator, new staff. We see what Dable can do. So maybe that's part of it. He had a good year. But yeah, I still kind of like the idea of Buffalo going far. I think that's my team too. But there's definitely concerns. But there's concerns with everybody.
All right, Codman, any thoughts before we have the celebratory victory lap?
The biggest thing kind of concerning about the Bills, two things. One, Josh Allen throws a lot of interceptions. Hit two yesterday. That's pretty concerning of me. I mean, especially if we're talking about razor thin kind of winning. You can't throw 2 interceptions. And then the guy, the offensive lineman, he's just doing his job. He's just pushing him around. He made an interception. Guys running back down. And then Josh Allen wants to get in the guy's face. I'm like, bro, you could have gotten really hurt by trying to push into a D lineman or just trying to start a fight with him. I think he's frustrated. He's fake tough guy. He's realizing that people are like, hey, we don't care if Josh Allen will hit you. We don't care. And they can't really run the ball. They can't.
He's the running back.
Yeah, he's their running back, but they can't run the ball. I mean, Singletary had 50 yards. James Cook had 40. I think he had a touchdown, but they're averaging under than 5 yards a run. So it's something where it's they got to tighten it up. Can't throw the interceptions. Got to turn up and let's go with the running back. I'll feel a little better, but they're not looking at they're going to come out there and see if they're going to turn the ball in.
All right. So now, fans, Giants, Vikings. I thought the Giants maximized their opportunities, and I thought the Vikings underperformed. Mike, you called it early. This is your time, sir. Tell me your thoughts on the Giants, Vikings.
So I think this is you have to go back because it was draft day. I wanted Josh Allen, the Jaguar, the defensive end, and maybe Daniel Jones in the next pick or Haskins. Either one, because the Giants had 2 first rounders. They took Daniel Jones and then Dexter Lawrence. And it was like a 24-hour mourning period. I was just crushed. My fandom done. You took the 3rd best defensive lineman on Clemson. You took the quarterback from Duke. And then I started listening to sports talk, and I watched the Skip Baylesses and the Stephen A. Smiths, and they kept crushing Daniel Jones. And then I realized he's going to be good because these guys know nothing about sports, nothing. Stephen A. Smith said they should have taken Dwayne Haskins. He's more athletic. When it shows he'd never watched a game because Dwayne Haskins was a pocket passer and Daniel Jones was the guy who ran. He was just basing it on assumptions. So once everyone started crapping on that pick, I was like, people are usually wrong. People usually don't know things. And it's been proven to be true. I mean, Daniel Jones, the Giants did everything in their power to screw him up. They had the receivers for the last 3 years, I believe, averaged the least separation. If you go to the advanced stats, his guys were blanketed a yard. Like he had nowhere to throw. The offensive line, terrible. He could move. Everyone could see he could move. Everyone wanted to crush him when he fell down on the 80-yard run. They still scored a touchdown, but he still got that 80-yard run. And that run, I believe, was like the fastest run anyone in the NFL had that year, like miles per hour, like next gen stats. So even in that thing, that was an embarrassing meme-worthy moment. It was impressive. He's got a coaching staff. Now the guys are open. Kafka's going to be a head coach, not next year, maybe the year after. Yesterday, all their guys he was throwing to, 3 yards of separation to 5 yards of separation. So you have a quarterback who can move. And by time, if guy's going to be open, and if he's not open, I can outrun you. Patrick Peterson, who used to be a speed guy, he's older now, just go right around. Defensive lineman, it's not going to be close. People look at him and think because he's unassuming that he's Eli. He's not. He's fast. He's not shifty. He's not going to give you what Lamar can give you. But straight line speed, he will go past you. People in the NFL know this. It's the fools like me when he was drafted and the TV guys who still can't get over the fact that they were wrong. They were wrong. He's good. He's good. Hodgins, James, Slayton. No one knew who they are. They're all fifth or worse round picks. No one knew who they were. Their families barely know they played football. They look good. They look good. He throws a catchable ball. I don't know how far this goes. I don't know if we beat Philly. I really would love to beat Philly because I hate Philly so much. But even if we don't, I mean, this is a year. This is a happy year. But boy, beating Philly, that would be it. That's
all right, fans. I have to break in to say one of the reasons why we love doing the odd coaches is we're educators. Okay. And what fans just got was an educated fan who is a teacher, who's an instructor, who looks at multiple modes of data, looks at all types of different things to come up with their opinion. And yes, we're fanboys, fangirls, what have you, but this is why we do this show. And that was awesome. We're going to leave that Giants game alone because Mike cares.
Well, okay. The other thing, though, because they got Daniel Jones at 6, they got Dexter Lawrence at 17, and he's 350 pounds, and he's like Aaron Donald, who's 280. Like the guy has done things that no nose tackle can do. He's the most impressive. But anyway.
All right. So, Will, with your blessing, Chris, go ahead and rip the Vikings, and then we'll move on.
Hey, I got to say, I love you, Vikings. Way to lose. Good job.
All right. So, fans, the last game we're going to talk about today because of our taping, it's a special Monday taping, but we're teachers, man. We got to go to work. He's independent. I'm sure he's working from home. But yeah, Baltimore, Cincinnati. Now, the Ravens frustrate me to no end because their entire team is wrapped around Lamar Jackson and they don't want to pay him. And they're trying to get like diet Lamar Jackson with whatever they're doing. Okay. And Cincy is losing good players at the wrong time. So, Will, what were your thoughts on the Ravens-Bengals game? And can Cincy stay healthy?
Man, we'll see, man. Cincy, I think they lost their offensive lineman. They lost 2 offensive linemen. Collins and I forgot 3. Yeah. That team is they're different, man. If they can give Burrow any kind of squirreling, if they can get, just like Brady, if they can get in there and even scare him a little bit, he'll start to crumble a little bit. Like he struggled a little bit with the Ravens, but again, he's playing against the Ravens for the 3rd time. So they should be playing a lot better. That game should have been closer than people should have expected. I mean, you're not just playing, they're professionals. The linebackers get paid just like the quarterback gets paid. People have to realize that. They study film just like the offense. I don't know. They're still kind of losing guys the wrong way at the wrong time. And as you're going to be winning in January, February, you got to be able to run the ball. If you can't run the ball, if you've got 3 offensive linemen, it just gets tough, man. It just gets tough. I mean, but if that's what you have, you got a great quarterback. You got Jamar Chase. I mean, that kid is just, unbelievable. He was just, and they kind of went away from him in like the second half. They kind of just like didn't really start, because remember the first half, he was just catch, touchdown. And then they kind of went away from him just a little bit. But they played against a tough team. I think it's really going to show us, because obviously they just played the Ravens last year, or not last year, last week. So I don't think that's the true Bengals that we saw. I think we'll see much more. Who did they play?
They played Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah. I think that'll be the real test. Because both teams have this issue where they're just not playing up, and they're gonna get. I wanted to see if Hamlin will show up to that game.
All right. Well, we'll pause on previews of the games until segment 3. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Ravens and the Bengals?
I thought the Ravens had it. I thought that they, when they were down at the 1 yard line, and I don't know why you're jumping up in the air and doing like a jump or something like that. Just go in the line and just smash it in. I mean, Baltimore had Cincinnati moving backward. I don't know how many times. But
remember, he dove over the thing, and then
here's the ball. Here, take the ball, smash it.
He blocked. Somebody got it. I mean,
wow.
That's the kind of stuff you need to win a Super Bowl. Those are the kind of
that was, and that was the difference in the entire game. And that tells you how bad Cincinnati was. I mean, and then after that, you had punt. It's like, okay, just give up. I mean, both these teams, weren't playing well yesterday.
They're ready to call it a day.
All right, Mike, did you stay up for the game, or were you in your Giants hangover?
I was watching everything. So there are some guys that when they jump for that play, kind of like in the NBA, they keep when you think they're gonna start going down, they keep rising. Saquon can jump from the 4 yard line. Lamar can jump from the 4 yard line, and they can go. That's not like he couldn't. It was clear he couldn't. Now the coaches, they took the bus, they ran him over, they ran it back after the game, and they were, oh, that wasn't the play. But then the blocking scheme, you couldn't tell. It kind of looked like that was the play. They don't want to pay Lamar, but then they want to run it out, like you said, they want to run an offense built on Lamar, but they don't want to pay him. And then they want to just destroy the backup quarterback who played a good game, like one bad play. And then you have Dobbins complaining. They're gonna throw out the offensive coordinator just like they threw out Wink Martindale last year. John Harbaugh is gonna keep blaming everybody else. Time to look in the mirror. There's a problem there. It's a coaching problem.
Right. That's Tyler Huntley should have been watching that commercial, because Brent Hill drinks Sprite.
Well, so really quick, fans, again, based on our taping schedule, we don't know the outcome of the Cowboys Tampa Bay game. So we're going to do a quick round robin, see who's right. Start with Mr. King. Cowboys at Tampa Bay against San Francisco next week, sir. What do you think, Mike?
So, I mean, I picked the Cowboys, but I'm going to keep the theme of some franchises are just losers, and I'm going to say the Bucs will still win.
All right, Will, who's winning?
I'm going with the Buccaneers. I think Black Kirk Cousins is going to lose for the Cowboys, and will be consistent.
Chris, what do you think?
I think Dallas is going to win. Not that I want them to win, but I think they will win. And I think that we're going to have that. That's like the 1970s and 80s games. Dallas going against San Francisco.
Yeah, and my partner's not here, so I got to advocate for my partner. I think Dakota will get a win because I am fond of saying it rarely ends well. So I'm predicting Tom Brady has an awful game, looks like trash, and that's kind of how history works.
To the Raiders. Then he comes to the Raiders. That's what we want.
So with that, we're going to take a quick pause, come back, and actually talk about NFL hiring on a very serious level. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler and Campbell said, Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey. Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 2, we want to talk about NFL personnel moves. So, fans, we want to introduce the NFL's official timeline for interviews. So, for this hiring cycle, January 10th, virtual interviews for open head coaching positions could be conducted with coaches whose clubs are not participating in the postseason or teams that have a bye, Kansas City and Philadelphia. January 17th, in-person and or virtual interviews may be conducted with head coach candidates whose teams played on either wild card Saturday or Sunday. January 18th, in-person and or virtual interviews may be conducted with head coaching candidates whose team played on wild card Monday. January 23rd, in-person and or virtual interviews with coaches whose teams won a wild card game may begin interviewing for coordinator positions through January 28th. The Saturday prior to conference championship games, a request for coordinator positions must be approved if it's not a shared position. We're going to move January 30th. Assistant coaches whose clubs are participating in the Super Bowl who previously interviewed for another club may have a second in-person or virtual interview. And February 13th, second interviews can take place whose teams are participating in the Super Bowl. I say all of that to say the system inherently punishes teams who win. And as a result of that, a lot of times teams rush to get whoever the hot candidate is. Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach. I think Tony's in the Hall of Fame. If not, he should be. He used this quote and said, when you interview minority candidates, if you really don't have an interest in hiring them, then it becomes a stain on their resume because you're interviewed 10 times and you didn't get a job. The USA Today just did a report and it found that a group of 4 Black coaches, Eric Bieniemy, Todd Bowles, Jim Caldwell, and Leslie Frazier, accounted for nearly 25% of the publicly reported interviews. So let me explain the Rooney Rule, and then I'm going to give my colleagues an opportunity to share their thoughts. Then we'll move forward. So the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule is named after Art Rooney, who was president of the Steelers, who actually don't do this coaching interview thing a lot because they keep their coaches and they win fairly more than they lose. So it says the rule requires teams to interview a coach of color. And what they wanted was, hey, if I'm starting to interview more people, I'm going to be exposed. In reality, according to many, including Tony Dungy, many owners have no idea of what kind of characteristics they want in a head coach. So it became just a sham interview for many of the people. Brian Flores was a coach of the Dolphins last year. He was fired in part, according to reports, for not wanting to lose. So again, the NFL is still in litigation. But before we talk about this year's hiring cycle, we're gonna, go around. So Will, let's start with you, sir. Any thoughts on the NFL hiring cycle, what they do? I did share some notes in advance to help prep, but let's see what direction you guys go in. What do you think, Will?
Well, the thing is, I don't think Black coaches are getting the fair chances that they don't get a chance to fail. That's the biggest thing. They don't get a chance to fail. Steve Wilkes, he was the last coach for the Cardinals. They he was a black coach 4 years ago. Had the worst team in the NFL. Got the first pick, took the guy that you wanted me to take. I didn't want to take him, but you told me to take him. Then they fired him. And then they, instead of saying, okay, well, they get a Sean Payton or they get a, Bill Parcells, whatever, they get like a big name. They bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who couldn't even win in college. So people start to say, okay, that looks funny. Then anytime a team has to lose, they hire, in my opinion, they hire a black coach. Look at Houston. Houston knew that they were going to lose. Instead of saying, hey, let's get a coach for the year and move forward, they hired Lovie Smith, who actually did a good job. I mean, if you look at Houston Texans game, they weren't laying down. Some things were just talent. They couldn't beat. But yeah, there's a lot of, there's just a lot of understanding, communication, distant understanding of what actually black coaches need and want. And it makes it it frustrates us. It frustrates us when we see a guy who's the Patriots wide receiver coach getting a job for Eric Bieniemy. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna happen again. And the reason Bieniemy is not people are interviewing is because he got in trouble 10, 15 years ago with a DUI. And it's unfortunate. Coaches now get DUIs and they get jobs and get hired. It's just a big thing that it's frustrating because I've seen the arguments. People say they're like, oh, well, you can't force people to hire whatever they want. They have to hire what they want, which is, in capitalism, I understand that. Okay, cool. But you can't be so blatantly just not worried even to get the dude who wins. Eric Bieniemy should have been a gem. People should be going but instead people want Sean Payton. And the guy hasn't coached in 2 years. The guy never had to coach without a Hall of Fame quarterback. And if people need to understand, I will repeat, there has never been a coach win 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. So I don't know why people need to invest this money into these archaic guys, believing that they're going to change their thing. They change, it's frustrating. As a black man, I've experienced it. Trying to get a job and people say, oh, well, oh man, I don't know. When you're clearly the guy, it's just frustrating, man. It's frustrating. I don't know really what the NFL is going to do. I don't know. I mean, it's going to change. It's going to have to change when they have to get black owners, to be honest with you. I mean, at the end of the day, we need to stop focusing just on being the players and start saying, hey, instead of making it to the NFL as, the first round draft pick, why not become the guy to own, or be a part of the ownership of an organization. And that's when we'll see the big changes. That's when we'll see the big, even look at Tampa. They got it. And what's his name? I forgot.
Todd Bowles, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich. Even the previous Bruce Arians, he was a big advocate who brings in guys who they thought needed a shot. We need more coaches who think like that. And it's unfortunate because you can't, I can't understand how you have so many great players, great black players, great black quarterbacks, defense players. You can't find a way that none of them, that you talk about them out so great. You say, oh, he's a smart guy. The guy is always this. He's always showing up. He's never a problem. Why don't these guys get called? But instead they called, what's his boy, Saturday. This dude, I mean, come on. Okay. That was a slap in the face to anybody. Now, I get it. You want to tank, but it's frustrating, man. I wish if I could come up with the resolution, I'm sure I would be. It wouldn't be here at the podcast, but
you'll have a little more money than I do.
Hey, there you go.
All right, Chris, you are a leader's leader. You have sat at the interview table. What are your thoughts on this year's hiring cycle? What do you think?
Well, I think that what we need to do, following Will on this, you need somebody that changes the culture of the team, right? And we're not giving coaches a chance. They're trying to bring in somebody that's going to force their mold on a team. Like a Sean Payton's going to try to force his mold on whatever organization he goes into. And that's not going to work in most situations. You need to have somebody that comes in, builds a culture of winning, and keep that person. I mean, if the coach, like what they did to Brian in Miami last year, I don't understand that. I really don't understand. And they need to give more people an opportunity, but they're not going to do it. I just don't see a change in the NFL that way until the teams say, hey, wait a minute, the owner themselves says, I'm done losing. I want to have a team and I'm going to go for this guy or girl, because they're the best. And because they're going to change my organization's mindset. And there's a lot of former players out there, former coaches out there, current coaches out there, like Eric in Kansas City. I mean, you got to give that dude a chance. And why isn't Brian on any of these lists? Brian Flores, why isn't he on any of these lists? I mean, he's a proven leader. Somebody should be interviewing this guy. I mean, like the Colts don't want him. You're kidding me, right? And then the Chargers want to give up their guy because Sean Payton might be available. You're kidding me, right?
So fans, I did leave Mike for last because Mike worked with me, and whenever we had teaching openings, one of the things that I tried to do was ask my department, what kind of characteristics, what do we need? So before we even got to the candidates, before we even got to any of this, we would all have conversations on what are we missing? It's a reflective piece. And I thought more often than not, we picked well. So Mike, what do you think with your experience with this about the NFL and this upcoming hiring cycle?
So I think the problem, so I was looking at a lot of coaches and going to their Wikipedia pages just to see kind of where, because there's a lot of bad coaches this week. So I was looking at like where they started and the good ones. And it starts in college, right? Like they all start as grad assistants, and then they become wide receiver coaches at some small school and they work their way. So this, within the last 2 weeks, there was this article about Mike Loxley. He apparently interviewed for the Dolphins job. Of course, there was a 0% chance he was going to get the Dolphins job. But he interviewed for the job. But the article wasn't about that. It was about, I'm looking it up. He founded the National Coalition of Minority Football Coaches. And it's got Ozzie Newsome and Nick Saban and Bill Polian and Mike Tomlin and others and Debbie Yao from his Maryland days that have a history of hiring on their staff, or if they were GMs or coaches or whatever, promoting hiring minority candidates in different positions. And I think the mission to try and make a list of qualified candidates and get the list out there to the different, I don't know if it's just college or college and NFL, but I think that's what needs to happen the most, especially at the college level, because again, there's very few NFL coaches who start in the NFL. It seems like they all start in college. So this starts there. More people getting chances at that level to then become the offensive coordinators and become the head coaches, which then gets you to the NFL. Because kind of like in education, we always look at a problem here when the solution starts here. And I think you get more. If the pipeline comes from college, then the fix has to be in college, right? Like, and again, I could be wrong, but that seems to be where everyone gets their start. So I think organizations like that, and Mike Loxley, he looked at it and he said there was 3 Black NFL coaches at the time he created this, and I think 14 college coaches, 14 college, out of how many Division I colleges? So he saw that and he said he's at the back 9 and he wants to leave it better than he found it. I really like what he's doing. I think that's going to lead to, I'm interested to see what the pipeline 15 years from now from programs like that, what that does to fix the NFL's problem. But the NFL still has a problem because they're still candidates. Eric Bieniemy. So Mike Kafka was on that staff as a quarterback coach, came to the Giants as offensive coordinator this year. And everyone says it's Dable's offense, but Mike Kafka still now, he cut the line. Everyone's saying within 2 years, people would be shocked if he's not a head coach. Within 2 years. Wouldn't be surprised if it's this year, but I think next year. Bieniemy, it's the same thing. He was in the Andy Reid staff. So what's the difference?
All right, so fans, here are the current teams that have openings. Now, we're not going to go through a breakdown of the candidates, but our team correspondence has a list of the reported candidates based off the NFL. So the Carolina Panthers have an opening. In my opinion, Steve Wilkes should roll through and kind of stay with it. And let me say this. This doesn't mean for every opening you have to hire a black candidate. That is not what we're talking about. One of the things we talk about privately is getting to the table. It's very challenging to get to the table. And me personally, I have over credentials, but there's often places that I just will not be able to get in. And as Mike said about Coach Loxley, I'm on the back nine too. I don't know if I'll ever get back into coaching, but the consulting piece and having the conversations about what you're trying to do and the alignment of your organization, that's the big piece. So Indianapolis has an opening. I have no idea what they're going to do. And I don't know why Jeff Saturday is still a candidate, but that's another story. Denver has an opening. Arizona has an opening. They've been getting it wrong year after year. And the Texans have an opening for head coach. In addition, Arizona has an opening for GM. Any smart organization would hire the GM first and the coach second. So let's see if they're a smart organization. Tennessee has a GM opening. And in terms of coordinators, Cleveland has a defensive coordinator opening. And more is going to happen, but we wanted to take the time to just have the conversation about it. So I want to thank my team for their openness, their honesty. And when we get back, we're going to go make predictions on the divisional round, strictly for entertainment purposes only, on the Odd Coaches podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA SAVE Project Academic Monitoring Service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress, as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. In segment 3, give us a divisional round preview. So on Saturday, Jacksonville will go against Kansas City. Chris, what is your prediction for Jacksonville, Kansas City?
God, I wish Jacksonville would win. Kansas City just has too much, I think, of talent, and they'll just overcome Jacksonville. But I think that Jacksonville has the heart. Kansas City just doesn't seem to have their heart in it this year. Hey, I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to say Jacksonville.
All right. Will, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with Mahomes, MVP, best team in my opinion in the NFL in the entire season. It'll just be, Jaguars shouldn't even be here. They were down 27-0. Let's be real. Chiefs aren't gonna lose like that. Their defense is much better. Their head coach is much better. If they go down 27-0, you might go down 45-0. So give the Chiefs easy.
Okay. Mike, what do you think?
I mean, the Chiefs are probably going to win, but any quarterback, if you get in their face, you can beat them. Brady, Mahomes. The only times they've looked bad is when they've gone against good defensive lines.
Right up the middle.
Jaguars got a couple of guys that can get to you. Doesn't mean they will, but that's the only way. That D line has to dominate for them to have a chance.
All right. So selfishly, fans of the show know I followed Jacksonville all year because that was one of my season-long bets. So I have watched Jacksonville probably more than I should have. I also know Andy Reid is a dynasty of one. I do know that. Hadn't won. You got that one big win, and he has been known to choke a game or two or six. But with that said, they should beat Jacksonville, and that shouldn't be an issue. But I would not be surprised. I will probably take Jacksonville in the points, depending on what the spread is, which I haven't seen. So now we got Giants, Eagles. We know who's going last. So Will, let's let you go first. Giants, Eagles. Who do you have?
Man, I am going with the Giants. Going with the Giants.
Really? Really?
I am going with the Giants. I think they're still trying to get back to where they were like 2 months ago. I don't think they were like on firing like they were. I think now they're going against a Giants team that can run the ball pretty damn well, and the running back, even if the offensive line isn't good, the running back like, I don't care, I'm still gonna do my thing. It's gonna be a real challenge. They whooped them bad pretty the last time. You remember it last time, and the Giants remember that. And the Giants remember that. And if anything, they got momentum. Philly they have a cold start. They got to wake up, go, turn on the car. Might not turn on. I don't know. But I like the Giants, man. I think if they keep doing what they're doing, if Daniel Jones can just he doesn't have to have the game he had yesterday, but if he cannot turn over the football, they will surprise and beat the Eagles.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
I say Giants again, as well. Don't worry, Mike. Giants are a team. Okay. They win and lose as a team. They will pull together as a team and they'll beat the Eagles. And it's going to be more than what you think it's going to be. It's not going to just be 7 points.
Mr. King, it is your time, sir.
I mean, I wish I was that confident. Eagles are the 1 seed. They're the 1 seed for a reason. They whooped us when we had our starters. Our backups, though, the story writes itself. It's almost like wrestling. It writes itself, right? 2007, the Patriots, they played them tough the last game, and it gave them the proof that they could beat that team. We played the Vikings tough, gave them proof they could beat the Vikings. Our third stringers played the Eagles tough. It gives them proof. So it does write itself. We didn't have Adoree Jackson back, the guy who just shut down Justin Jefferson to 0 targets in the fourth quarter because he was blanketed. But they got lots of receivers. They don't just got one. Boston Scott scores a touchdown against the Giants every game. He's had, I think, more than half his career touchdowns against the Giants. I think the Eagles will win, but the Giants are, all the things you said are true. The Giants are a team. They're going to prepare. There's video on the plane. Everyone's celebrating. Someone videos Daniel Jones, and he's just there on the computer, looking at tape, getting ready for the next game, because that's him. So they're going to be prepared. I feel confident they'll be prepared. I don't know if they have the talent to beat a team like that, because again, the Vikings have the offensive talent of the Eagles, but not the defensive talent. So to beat the Eagles, you have to play a perfect game because they can do it. They can beat you on both sides.
Well, Mike, you segued very well. You see, here's the unique thing about this game, and this is Coach Adams's thoughts. So Will's been in the locker room with me going all over the place and then bring it back to, oh, that's what you meant. Georgetown, Villanova. 1985. Georgetown's a machine. And if they played anybody else in 1985, they'd have beat them by 30. But Villanova played Georgetown twice. I'm comfortable. We play in the NFC East. Man, those games could be blowouts, could be close. So in terms of the wolf tickets, and one of the things that I like to do as a coach when I had the talent was just sell wolf tickets in terms of everybody duck their head through the door during warm-ups. You're not supposed to dunk, but touch the rim, do all the things, hard handshake, cut off t-shirts, no fancy warm-ups for coach. We gonna show you But Philly can't do any of that stuff. They're not worried about the Philly fans. I get the Philly fans every year. So all of the things that make Philly scary don't scare the Giants at all.
They're not scared of the stadium either. The fans, they're not scared of
Nah,
none.
nah,
They've been there for 20, 30, 40 years. Like,
yeah. But with that being said, Mike, I'm sorry. I still think you guys are terrible and the Eagles are going to win. And enjoy the season. I thought you did a great job. You're going to have a wonderful banquet. A lot of things to talk about, but it's over. But again, this has been quite entertaining. Again, but anyway. Cincinnati. I set it up though. Cincinnati, Buffalo. Mike, let's stay with you. Cincinnati, Buffalo. What do you think, sir?
This game, because of Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Lamar's probably gonna walk out as a captain for the court. Like, you can't you can't analyze this game because no one knows what the emotions are going to be like for anyone on the field because we haven't seen no one's experienced this. This is a first. So, I mean, it's a wonderful first that it all worked out the way it did. But this is a first. Will the Bills ride high? They could, and the story writes itself. Will they be emotionally spent? They could, and then the story writes itself. So the story is written. Everyone could they could write it right now, have 2 drafts, and submit the next day. It's nice and easy. But we need to see which draft, and I have no idea.
My whole will last on this one. Chris, what do you think?
Oh, Buffalo's going to win. I mean, just on the emotional high. Come on now. I mean, everybody has to have a higher purpose for a win. And this is the higher purpose. They want to win it for him. They want to win the Super Bowl for him.
Okay. Will, what do you think, man?
It's interesting. It's interesting, man. A week after Hamlin went down, everybody, they knew he was okay. And they wanted him to, show up and root the team, and they really, he's going to beat the game, and he wasn't. And I believe they played the Patriots, and they kind of struggled with him a little bit. Same thing with Miami. Everybody wanted Hamlin to show up and have everyone had all this energy ready to go. He was sending out, he sent out images. He was hanging out with the team, and he didn't show up, and they fell flat again. The Bills need to just play. They can't ride on this emotion that they want, that this great story, this Disney story that, we fight for our team and play the game. If they get caught up again with this Hamlin energy and all of a sudden he's not there and they're playing flat, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. But good thing with them is they're going against the Bengals, who lost 3 offensive linemen. And that is Buffalo's strength. They're getting to the quarterback. Sacks, fumbles, strip sacks, strip stuff, all that kind of stuff. So, like Chris, I think at the end of the day, if Hamlin shows up, it'll be a blowout. If Hamlin doesn't show up, Bills still win, but it'll be a little more exciting for us as fans.
All right. So again, I'm a coach. We've gone through a whole lot of ups, downs, rights, lefts, but when the whistle blows and they kick the ball off, all we're doing is playing football. At the end of the day, we're still just playing football. So all of that, I can't say what I would say in the locker room, but we got to check that at the door. Buffalo has a better team than Cincinnati. Cincinnati is having trouble up front, and I saw Ed Oliver in the backfield all day yesterday. So all I saw was Ed Oliver in the backfield. So with that being said, they're playing at Buffalo, not Cincinnati. The incident happened at Cincinnati. The game was at Cincinnati, I would think differently, but it's a game now. So with that being said, Buffalo should win. And I actually think they should win handily because I think Joe Burrow is going to be on his back a lot. But again, great story. We're happy sending our thoughts out, all of that. But yeah, it's still football, and my team's better than yours. And that's kind of how I look at it, which takes us to the final game. So San Francisco means something to the OTP because my former player, Fowler and Campbell, talked me into on the air, following them all year with my season-long bet. They're playing with a backup quarterback. And I have often said, much to my tag team partner chagrin, that quarterback is the most overvalued, overrated position. And if you get somebody in and you give them some time to throw and you don't complicate the playbook. I remember Mike Shanahan one year, or it might have been Marty Schottenheimer, had like some 700 page playbook. No, we run the same stuff. Number one offense is the fast break, blah, blah, blah. So San Francisco is running a very basic offense right now. So with that being said, Chris, can San Francisco beat either Tampa Bay or Dallas, or be on the upset watch? What do you think, Chris?
San Francisco is going to win. It doesn't matter who they play.
Doesn't matter who they play.
It doesn't matter.
Mike, who wins, San Francisco or the field?
I think San Francisco's trouble game is the winner of Giants-Eagles because the defenses are better. I think for the quarterback, because the only way they lose if Purdy has a bad game, it's like a real bad game. And I think either Wink Martindale or that Eagles defense is his biggest threat. I don't think they have trouble in the next round.
All right. And Will, speaking on behalf of Son of Festus, what do you think is going to happen? And that is said with love and sincerity and deepest care.
San Fran beat, doesn't matter who they play, like Chris said.
It doesn't matter who you play. All right, fans. With that being said, on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, and our cavalcade of stars, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care. And yes, I agree with everyone. San Francisco will beat whoever it is, and we'll see you on the sidelines.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at oddcoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.